Hey everyone, you're listening to the Active Turnkey podcast, a podcast designed for hands-off, passive real estate rental investors. In the Active Turnkey podcast, you'll hear Tom Olson and Jared Stoutmeister discuss all things turnkey rentals with other turnkey providers, service providers, and rental investors. Our goal is to help you reach your financial freedom and whatever comes after that. Let's go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Active Turnkey podcast. I'm your host, Jared Stoutmeister, and we have a special podcast today. We have some investors in here, and on occasion, we like to get outside guests. And so if some of you are used to seeing Tom Olson on here, I apologize. He's not here. You get me, and I'm the host today, so I apologize in advance. But we do have a great podcast today. It's spring is here. We've made it to spring finally. The weather is nice. We're here today. It's a little cooler, but we're looking in a couple of days at 80-degree weather in April, and so that's pretty exciting stuff. And for those of us who are in the upper Midwest here in Chicagoland, we're excited about it, and we can't wait to get to it. Also, with that comes the market shifting a little bit, so you start to see a lot more action, showings. In fact, we had an appraisal this week, and the guy was so booked we had to go out a week and a half out just to schedule the appraisal. So it's good news for deals. It means deals are happening, and hopefully that helps with the market, and Lord willing, we'll get some other action. But without further ado, we want to jump in the podcast today. And again, we have some special guests today, and I'm going to change the mode here. But we have two guests, two guys who are local here in Chicagoland, guys who have done a few deals. And so, hey guys, I'd like you to meet Eric. So Eric, if you want to give a wave, hello. Nice to meet you. There you go. All right. And then we have Matt as well. Matt. Nice to have you. And so these guys are investors that we've worked with here for the last couple of years. I mean, you guys aren't going crazy. They're not doing 20 deals a year and like that, which I think might be a little too much for most people to do. But they are investors, and they've done some deals, and they both actually just finished an active turnkey deal or a BRRRR deal. Each have their own deals going here in Gary. And so, but first of all, I'd like you guys to introduce yourselves. If Matt, if you want to jump in first and just tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us about your where you're from, your family situation, your work, education, just stuff like that, just to get to know us a little bit.
Yeah, hey, I'm Matt Weiss. I grew up in Atlanta and went to school in Michigan for college, and the Midwest just kind of sucked me in. And so here I am almost 20 years later. Live in Michigan now. I lived in Chicago after school for about 10 years and moved back to Michigan about 2 years ago now. I have a wife, Lindsay, and a daughter, Ella, which has been a great experience so far. She's 2.5. And yeah, happy to be here. Excited to talk.
Cool. Eric, what about you? Tell us a little about yourself.
Not too different from Matt, actually. Origins different. Grew up in the northern suburbs of Chicago. Went to Michigan at University of Michigan with Matt. Went back to Chicago for 10, 12 years or so. And then actually moved back to suburban Michigan a year and a half ago also.
Oh. Now, are you guys close to each other at all in Michigan?
Yeah, we're 7-8 minutes away.
Oh, cool. Oh,
It'd be
there
too
you go.
Far from
yeah.
So how do you guys know each other? Do you guys meet in college?
Yes.
Cool.
Buddies from college.
Awesome.
Right at the beginning of college.
Do you guys have similar majors, or what were your majors in school?
Matt?
Not too similar. I majored in physics in college.
Wow.
That was my passion back then. And Dritz, Eric, I don't know when you.
I was in political science, but I guess our paths converged later on. We both went to Kellogg at different times for our MBA.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's pretty neat. You guys are going round and round, and yet you guys are still pretty close to each other, and that's exciting. And good friends will do that, and it's definitely good to have friends. And so now, I believe Eric, you came in first, right? I'm pretty sure that you came in. Is that right? Do I have that right?
You have it right. We actually, Matt, you might be able to correct me on some of the timing here, but I think this started as a COVID hobby a little bit, where Matt and I were talking, we were like, hey, let's see what we can get interested in. And so I think we were both looking at bigger pockets and random message boards and forums like that, and came across you guys. I think I reached out first, and in my first deal, I think it was December of 2020, probably right before Matt's. But I think I reached out and started a deal first, we were probably right around the same time. And
Yeah,
Matt, is
that's
that
right.
right?
Yeah, that's right. Like you said, we both were independently starting to look at real estate. I think I messaged Derek at
Mhm.
one point in 2020. Um, hey, I feel like an idiot for not being in real estate. And he said, I feel the exact same way. And so we kind of started getting into it. I think we both realized with our busy jobs that we didn't really have the capacity at the time to just do, BRRRR rehab projects ourselves
Sure.
with our busy personal lives. So we launched kind of we realized that Turnkey was the way to go. We kind of launched sort of a nationwide search, and it came across at the time you're Olson. Now it's
Mhm.
One Property Solutions, right?
Mhm.
And yeah, just struck us as a great trustworthy organization.
Cool. Well, yeah, that was interesting. So, one of the things that we do provide for our customers is we always recommend you come in and visit us in person, and I generally host. Sometimes Tom or our property management team, one of the members would come as well. But with Eric, he came and we visited different places, and that was right in the middle of COVID. And so, there's masks and there's I think we drove separately from house to house. I mean, it was the time, right? It was just how things happened. And but I think it went pretty well. You bought a house in like Howe Township area of Gary.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's right. I think I ended up almost coincidentally. I don't think it was a plan, but I think I ended up buying one of the places that we went to.
that's right. Yeah, you did. And a pretty good deal. And you still have that one, I imagine.
Yes, it's
Cool.
great. I wish I bought more at those interest rates.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, that's a whole nother conversation, and we can hit that maybe a different one. But Matt, now how many did you buy one from us before as well? One turnkey.
Yeah, at that time. So yeah, I think I was for the straight turnkey deals. I was I bought one. I think a few months after Eric in February of 21, I believe.
Mhm.
And I think by that point we were masks off, or we were at least okay being in the same car. I
Sure.
think when I came to visit Gary.
Sure. No, that's really cool. And now, do you guys have any other real estate experience aside working with us on these last couple deals?
Investment, no.
Okay.
Primary residence, yes, but
Sure.
that's
Sure.
certainly different.
Sure.
Yeah, I didn't have any prior experience.
Now you guys are both are you guys both looking for homes now? Is that what I know one of you said that you were looking for a house? Was it you, Matt? You were looking to upgrade or something or
Yeah, yeah. I currently own primary residence, and
Mhm.
I'm currently looking to get a new one
Cool.
in the next 1 2 years here, something like that.
Same area you're at now?
Same area, more square footage is the goal.
Sure, sure. Yep. Natural. I hear you. That's good. Well, I appreciate you guys giving us the background a little bit and get to know us and letting the listeners get to know you a little bit. And recently you guys jumped in. When you first bought, I think it's really wise if you're a listener and you're out there and you're looking to get into doing deals and work with someone like us. We do provide pretty much two different products. We do a turnkey done for you, which is what they mentioned earlier. For us, it's pretty good properties, pretty good standard of finishes. It's done for you. It comes with like a 1 year warranty and all labor at 1 year from the finish of the rehab, so it has some value there. And I think it's really helpful if you're looking to jump in and work with someone like us, because doing a BRRRR deal or what we call active turnkey, there's a lot of trust there. There's a lot of cash that you're sending over to somebody that maybe you've never done a deal with. So I think the turnkey is a great way to get to know us, and it's been a few years since they purchased it. So obviously they felt like we were trustworthy enough over time to do a deal the way we did it with Active Turnkey. And so again, they've been managed with our sister company, One Property Solution, the property management company, and so that's been going well. But recently, but last year, that was the beginning of last summer, spring, summer or so. Does that sound about right? You guys reached out about doing another Active Turnkey deal?
That's right, right around then.
Yep.
And again, they both came pretty much around the same time, and so we did have opportunity to have some deals. We now the years ago we started Active Turnkey program, and we've shared this with you guys. But when we first started doing it, we were in Maryville, Hobart, Hammond, all these areas, and it just there were deals everywhere. You could find a deal anywhere. The numbers were crazy. We were able to get our guys at like 75% LTV. Now, back then, we didn't do near the finishes we do now. And it wasn't even close. We didn't do quartz. We didn't do tile. I mean, the finishes were, it was closer to rent ready finishes, we would say. And I would tell you today, the market has changed where I think the demand, if you want to get the high end rent, particularly in an area like Gary, you really do need to go in with the higher end finishes. That's going to really separate you from everyone else. It's going to help with your appraisal. It will affect the appraiser in his perception of the value. And so since then, it's become a little bit more difficult to provide those 75% deals. They're just, unless you find them yourself, it's difficult. So right now we're right around 82 to 85%, depending on the deal, where we can get our investors. That's kind of the goal at this point for us, is to get at 85% or lower for it to make sense. And so that's where you guys came in. We were able to find a deal for each of you. And really the exit numbers were pretty much the same. I think we had the after repair value around 130 per. Now, just kind of a little side note, we are going to go through numbers and just kind of break down each deal with everybody, all the listeners here. But in for us, when the market shifted, when the rates went crazy, right away we knew that buyers were backing off. They didn't want to be paying the $160,000, $170,000 purchase price with higher interest rates, and it just made it very difficult for the deal to cash flow. So we brought the deal down. I brought our target area down, and we were really targeting around the 125 to $130,000 value point there. Now, we also, secondly, needed to make sure that the property was around 1% rent ratio, or at 1% rent ratio. So we had to have that in order for the deal to make sense for the investor. Now, about 2 years ago now, it's been about 2 years since the interest rates went crazy. Before that, you could buy almost anything and have it cash flow. With interest rates being half of what they are today, I mean, it could just, you could buy anything anywhere and you could almost make it work. But that changed. And so I say all that because in these deals, one of the important factors in these deals is that when I talked to you both, Eric, Matt, I said that, hey, there's a likely potential for a higher appraisal on both of these deals. And we knew that. We thought the market value was higher, but we needed to get to where we thought we can get you the 1% rent ratio. So in essence, we were kind of giving away equity. So when we say we're at 82 to 85% on the pro formas, that's just to make the deal work with cash flow and everything. So there was we thought it was a likely potential that they were worth more based upon some other deals we've done in those areas. So I'd like to just break them down a little bit. And first of all, just jumping in, how do you guys, we send you guys these deals. How do you guys break them down? I don't know if Eric, you want to go first, but how do you normally, when you assess it, what are some things that are important to you, some things that you're looking for?
Yeah, so I'll start. I'm trying to think. The biggest piece for me is just timing. Am I ready to move forward with something? If I have my money locked up in this active turnkey for 6 months, it could be the best deal in the world, but I'm not going to do two at a time. It's just too much capital for me to be tied up. Sure. But putting that aside, I try to stay numbers oriented. Like at the end of the day, if I can look at your pro forma and see the cash flow, you see obviously the purchase price, how much you're expecting to put into repairs. Mm-hmm. I think getting the first one in my belt gives me a decent sense of a margin of error there. And also with Matt and I working pretty closely together, or at least looking at our numbers together, now we have a couple sample sizes to sure. kind of bounce ideas with each other. But if the cash flow makes sense, then great. Honestly, if the comps cash flow area, then I'm not going to get too romantic about a particular lot or anything like that. It's sure kind of just a property, and if it makes sense, dollars and cents wise.
Cool. For better or worse. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, similarly to Eric, just you guys produce a pro forma, which I take a look at, and I've found to be mostly accurate and reflective of reality. I do my own little, maybe more conservative on some parts of it, things sure. like that. But especially when it came to the active turnkey deal, my sense was, as long as it's cash flowing, Um, I think that real estate is a good investment, especially in what I think is, likely an uh, undervalued area in
Hmm.
Gary, just due to
Hmm.
a variety of factors. And the way I looked at and evaluated the active turnkey was, even if it's only cash flowing a little bit, I'm acquiring this asset
Yeah.
for, on the pro forma for like, you know, a fourth of what it would cost to acquire it if I were to do it just regular turnkey.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, and so, that was really appealing to me. And then with the regular turnkey, I mean, the cash flow at the time that we did it with interest rates where they were was just
Hmm.
obvious. I think that,
Yeah.
I was making, you know, the rent was double the
Nice.
mortgage payment.
Yeah. No, I think you bring up a really good point there. So I have a lot of investors, that's all they look at is cash flow. That's it. That's the most important number to them. And it's an important number, but they're comparing it to just the deal as at large, just like a
Right.
regular deal, where in this case, like you just brought up, it's really in relation to what your money into the deal. That's what's so important. So I had a deal with my dad recently where, we did the whole deal and we were into the deal more money. We had to bring money to closing. And, of course, you don't want to. I think in a perfect situation, you don't have to do that. That'd be great. That'd be great. But in this case, we did. And so, and we were, of course, you want to try to not have to bring much. I think we had to bring like 10 grand to closing. And so, in that scenario, I told my dad, though, I'm like, hey, this is a beautiful house. It was gorgeous, gorgeous house. And I said, hey, would you buy it for 10 grand? Would we take this house with a tenant in there? Would we buy it for 10? And I think we would say, well, yeah, that's a great deal. And so I think in the end we might lose sight. And plus, we're now we need to evaluate that deal not off the whole thing, but off of my money in the deal, off of 10 grand. So I think the return definitely helps with that, and especially when you look on your cash on cash returns. And in many cases, we might get a little tied up just looking at the cash flow. And that's one of the things I'll add to that is I think many investors, they see people and they hear people, and I think they think they're going to get rich off of cash flow. And it takes a lot of deals to do that. You're really going to build your wealth on that equity piece. It just is. And so if you can get deals, if you can snag them, and again, if you're into the deal, 5 to 10 grand of your own money, but you have an asset that now you can hold it. It is cash flowing, and at that point now you can hold it. And like Tom, our owner says, Tom says, hey, the cash flow is the glue. It just keeps it going to the point where now you've built up enough equity. You can refinance at some point, Lord willing. Hey, we'll be able to refinance these deals and get lower interest rates down the road and build up more cash flow then, or we can let the house appreciate over time and get to where, they're doubling in value. That's kind of, any you guys have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, two other quick thoughts there, and I think you touched on Jared that Matt probably answered a little better on that, and I don't only focus on cash flow because my two other thoughts are one, I do keep my own little P&L or
No.
pro forma on the side where I'm
Nice.
I'm measuring like I just did the cash out refi for the active
Mm-hmm.
turnkey, and so what is my actual investment? It's not the
Mm-hmm.
110 or whatever it is that we initially take out, but or that I initially put out. So when I'm looking at cash on cash return, and then once I start adding the principal payoff and maybe assuming some conservative idea on appreciation, what we're actually returning here, so I can track it. So that's one. I don't mean to only look at cash flow.
Oh, sure.
The other thing is, I think when my first property that I mentioned, not that like a Zillow estimate is I think all that reliable, but it is it's at least a good sense check to me that the property has gone up 40-50% in 4 years, and I'm
Yeah.
getting million of these private equity requests saying, "Hey, we want to buy your home from you." So if nothing else, it's validation that, to Matt's point, there's probably something about this area that it seems to be appreciated.
Oh, definitely. It definitely is. And I would say there's still appreciation around. I do think there's a little bit of settling, but a lot of the areas that we're working in Gary, there's still room. There's still some appreciation. And so that was really good, guys. And I think what you guys both do in going at the end and evaluating, making sure you see what the true numbers are, certainly help to justify the deal and help you moving forward. And the other thing is now you're learning throughout the whole process. and you're not having to do every little step. You don't have to do the construction piece, and we'll get into that in a second. But assessing the deal, it's just an education piece where down the line you guys will know specific questions to ask even better as you go through and look for deals and even not find them on your own down the road. But real quickly, tell us a little bit about your construction process and how that went for you. So if you buy from us, from One Group Network, we bring you the deal. It's a wholesale deal typically, but we do provide the scope of work, which is the actual scope of work. And then during the process, if you move forward with us, then we give weekly updates and give pictures and tell what's happening at the property. And then if any issues come up or any extras come up, but tell us a little bit about how that experience was for you guys. Matt, you want to go first this time?
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, my construction process with you guys for this active turnkey deal was very smooth. I think that going into these types of things, I think you do a lot of prep with folks like me and Eric before we enter any deal with you guys to kind of expect some unexpected things, right? There's
Sure,
going to be
sure.
some error bars, some variance, and
Hmm.
timing, maybe some costs here, things like that. So I
Hmm.
went in prepared for deviations from the plan, small ones, which certainly happened. But by and large, it was he gave me a scope of work. Um, you know, got started on the rehab in a fairly timely manner and gave me weekly updates and progress is being made, and it finished yeah, right about on time that was predicted, and right at what the estimate was as well. I think you guys take a couple grand or something, maybe depending on the deal for
Hmm.
extras that might come along. And I was fortunate to not have any. So actually, at the end of the deal, at the end of the construction phase, I got back. I think it was something like $1,500 from that. So it's always reassuring.
Yeah, so just so you listeners know what he's talking about, we have the scope of work, which is the hard price. That is the hard cost. That is the deal. So we're responsible. Our company is responsible for every line item there. We guarantee that part of it. But we also do recommend that the investor add a $2,000 incidental budget in there so that if anything comes in, any kind of extras, the cash is there. We don't touch it until it's been approved by the owner, and then whatever's not used in an incidental budget is reimbursed back to the owner. So from deal to deal, we'll have some. And in your case, Matt, it sounds like you got most of it back. So we have had deals where some guys got all of it. I wouldn't say that you should expect something when you're talking in these cases. I mean, you guys had 40, 50, almost $60,000 rehab budget. I mean, to get every single item may not be realistic. Um, and so, but our goal naturally is to get that down to as little as possible and to zero if we can, to help you guys on your refinance. So, Eric, I know we had a little bit of extras in your situation. Do you want to tell us about the construction experience for you?
Yeah, I think by and large it was a good experience. So I had about $40,000 worth of construction, and you had mentioned when we were closing that your rule of thumb, just a general swag, but roughly 5 grand a week, so
Hmm.
8-ish weeks it should take, and it was right around there. I think week 5, 6 is when you said we're a couple weeks away, and we should be a few weeks ago in the market. I think it was right at 8 weeks, so that was good. We had we went through the that $2,000 buffer, and then at the way end, I think that last week there were additional about $2,000 worth of additional investments needed.
Hmm. Hmm.
Uh, to me, that was frustrating. But if I would have known at the beginning that it was $2,000 more than the pro forma said, it wouldn't have changed anything. So what are you going to do?
Sure.
There's nothing to really do about that. So timing was good. The repair cost was off, but it wouldn't have changed my numbers. And so yeah, I don't. I think if Matt was a good friend, he would offer to just pay me his difference. But for some reason, he didn't.
But I'm not. So
Yeah.
here we are.
Exactly.
Matt, what a guy. And no, it's good. Now, tell us a little bit about the rental experience. So one thing I'm hearing, and I even heard this from an investor, and sometimes this is just guys who are wanting to use this as like a negotiation. They just want to tell you all the bad things. So this is what you're supposed to do when you're negotiating with it on a deal. You need to say about all the bad. Okay, you don't talk about good. There's no value. Okay, it's just the bad. So one of the things that people are bringing up right now is the market and the timelines for placing a tenant. So you guys, there's two deals here. You guys finished about the same time. This would have been like late summer. Does that sound right for you guys? I should have had this date, the dates, but does that sound about right when you guys finished your projects?
I think mine was August or September.
Okay,
Yeah, late summer is probably right about right.
and the same for you, Matt.
Yeah, mine was probably about 4 to 6 weeks after that.
Okay. That sounds about right. So the best time of the year in our market to place a tenant is basically end of February to about May. That's the hot season for placing tenants. Late summer's fine, but you really would, in a perfect situation, you would like to try to get a tenant in there because families are moving. If anyone wants to get in a type of a school system, they're going to try to get in before the schools start and things like that. So you guys were in the fall time, so that's really good. Now, about how long did you guys feel the properties were on the market? How did you think that whole process went with the property management company with finding a tenant for you guys? Eric, you want to go first?
Yeah, I was trying to quickly go through my emails. So I have a lease in my Google Drive that was starting October 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Think, I think it was probably closer to early September that it was ready. So by the time you go to market, I didn't have a problem with it. Let me answer your question directly. I didn't really have a problem with it. I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
being frustrated at the amount of time it was. So it was probably 3 to 4 weeks, which kind of makes sense. You take a week or two to get it ready, get someone in the door, and
Mm-hmm.
then have them sign the lease. I'm guessing it took 3 to 4 weeks total.
Okay.
And I was also looking at the pro forma. Your rent estimate was 12.95. My lease is 12.95, so that
Mm-hmm.
was that on.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, yeah. The leasing process was great for my deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was about as instantaneous as it can be. I think I
Yeah.
was, on the hook for like some utilities and stuff like that while it was vacant, but
Right.
it was pretty much, yeah, I don't remember worrying about it or
Yeah.
anything like that. It was pretty instantaneous. And like Eric said, it was, my estimate was from the pro forma was 12.95 per month. And that's what we got
Mm-hmm.
very quickly.
Yeah, so going through the deal, each one of your deals, I felt like Matt's went about as well from the beginning to the end as a deal goes. Like he mentioned the construction itself, there were minimal extras, which is great. If my memory serves me right, I mean we had a tenant within the first week of marketing for Matt, and so I think
Yeah.
that went extremely well. And then that's not even getting into the appraisal. So once you start stacking all these situations, first thing I want to say is, the experience matters, and it also has an effect on how you determine if the whole thing works or not, whether that be with us or in general. We've had people who have poor experiences, bad experience. I was talking to an agent last night. Someone broke in to their house here in a good area and stole some appliances. This happens, and we actually had a podcast we recorded last week and we just published it about theft. It happens. In this case, it was a good area, and even in Hammond, you see people in Hammond where listings come up and people would just they take the appliances, and sometimes that can put a bad taste in someone's mouth, saying, "Okay, well, it doesn't work, you can't do it," and where it could have been an isolated situation, or it could have just been a bad experience on that one deal. So, getting into the deal now, let's get a little bit into that. And so, Matt, let's talk about yours first. So your deals both were very similar. I would say from my perspective that Eric's house in general, I thought had a little bit more potential. I actually think that the block and the neighborhood's a touch better. I think we did some flips like within a block or two that had some really like a 175 ARV. So we quoted you guys both, or not quoted, we projected a 130 ARV with room in there. And so we did in 12.95 rent. So they're very similar. They're within a quarter mile, half mile from each other, I believe. They're very close in proximity. And so so with Matt, we went in, did the whole rehab, worked with the appraiser. Now Matt, the difference I think between Matt's property, Matt has a partially finished basement, but Eric has Matt has a partially finished basement, and um and that's it. No garage. No garage on, but Eric has a one-car garage and has a basement, but it's not finished. But Eric does have ceilings down the road. They're actually like they're huge. They're like 8 foot ceilings or 8, 9 foot ceilings. He can finish that down the road. And I think his is a little bit bigger above grade. Eric's house is above grade. So they're very similar, but our perspective was we thought Eric might have a little more potential for a bump with a few more comps in the radius there. But Matt, with his deal, we went in, did the appraisal, and now here's the thing. Here's the thing. The one part, now I would say we don't have a control over everything. Naturally, if you go in and do a rehab and you look behind a wall, you might find something. That's a little unfortunate. But the one part that we know we have zero control in is the appraisal. We just don't know. And every week we're selling houses, our team, and we have even some employees that are doing their own deals, and they'll ask, "Hey, I got this appraiser who's coming in. Do you guys know him? Have you ever had him?" And we have like a group text that we talk, and okay, yes, this guy's good. Ooh, you might not want to touch that guy. And we have a blacklist of guys. So with Matt, his guy, we've had phenomenal appraisals with him in the past. Phenomenal. In fact, if my recollection serves me right, we did a deal with him like 6 or 7 years ago, where he was the first one, in my opinion, that understood what was happening in Gary. And we had seen a lot of people who would never appraise the property at sale price ever. And this guy actually went above. He valued it over our sale price. And this was a turnkey deal. This wasn't a BRRRR deal, active turnkey deal. And so right away, when I saw that guy come in, I'm like, okay, well, this should be pretty good. This should be pretty good. So we coordinated with him. I actually showed up to the property. I try to have either me or a team member there to meet them, to guarantee access to make sure they get in. I met when I pulled up, he was walking out. I was like, oh no. I always prefer to be in there to make sure that there's access, but also to kind of help with the tenant and everything. But I did do a walkthrough with Matt, and the tenant was really clean. And so that it was helped. So appraisal came in. Matt, do you remember the number? What did it appraise for?
170, right?
170. That's
Yeah.
170.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, at the end, yeah, it was very, I felt very fortunate,
Yeah.
pretty excited when that came through. And it was, as a result, actually, after the cash out refi, I ended up all in due to that. Ended up $10,000 in surplus from the whole deal. So
Wow.
acquired the home with $10,000 added to my bank account.
Yeah.
And yeah, and also fortunately, or maybe unfortunately for some, one of my things that I factored in to the deal was having, about 110K out of the market
Hmm.
for roughly 6 months, because that's how long you have to wait to refi. But maybe the market would go up on average 5% in that time. So maybe that's $5,000-$6,000. But in our case, like both me and Eric's case, the market actually went down in that time. So that was actually technically in this one case a little even extra I could factor in there.
Oh yeah. So now Matt is very diligent with his numbers. We have and Matt and Eric both. They're both they're very diligent numbers, asking really good questions. And we had a conversation, Matt, because you almost didn't buy this one. If you remember, we had the conversation. I remember I was by the hospital. I was taking my lunch and you called, and I think there was a little number that you were looking at. I think I more or less talked you into it, if I remember correctly. I don't know if you remember that conversation.
Yeah, I don't remember talking. I don't remember wavering too much on it.
Okay.
Maybe I was just trying to get some leverage.
Yeah, there you go. Well done. Well, you did
Not
it.
really
It
though.
worked. You totally got me. I fell for it. And but in the end, so just kind of recapping Matt's deal. Matt's deal went about as well as a deal could possibly go. It really did. And again, we were being concerned. We thought we were conservative with our Airbnbs. And again, we are typically doing that. If you guys see our bird deals, we do usually see that there's a little bit more room. It should appraise for more. We're bringing it down so that it's at the 1% rent ratio. That's what we're doing. So if you see our active turnkey deals coming across, that might be something to pay attention to. As you know, there's probably some fat there. So when you see 82 to 85%, there might be more than that. So or more equity. So you might be able to have less in the deal after refinance. All that being said, Matt's deal went about as well as it could possibly gone. This is your first active turnkey deal, first bird deal, and normally I don't like that. Okay, now Matt loves it. There's nothing wrong with it. It is what it is, right? It is what it is. But I don't like it because it sets a really hard precedent. Like it sets a hard expectation. And this happened several years ago now. We were doing some deal. It's probably been 7, 8 years ago. Did a deal in Maryville for a guy. We did like 15,000 repairs. We gave him the estimate. It appraised, similar situation, way over, way over. And my first thought is like, awesome. That's great. And let's get him on a podcast. But it was great. But his next deal was awful. Like the polar opposite. Like he had extras, and that particular one, we had issues with the city. They had come in and were playing some games, which some of these cities are known to have. So in the end, though, the only negative I see this is the expectation, because I think Matt got the one out of 30, 1 out of 50 type scenario where it's like 40 grand over a conservative estimate, where you don't want that to be the expectation for every deal. Because let's say next one you come in at 130 and you're like, it's like, well, that was by design. That's how we ran the numbers and based the whole deal off of a 130. But you guys follow what I'm saying. It might set a precedent where now the expectation is whatever. I've had two deals that were kind of similar to yours, maybe not quite that high. I think I had like two where they're like 30 over what I thought they would be. And so you hit the home run on that one. But that's the only thing I would say in those situations is you got what everyone wants to get. But those are difficult to get. They're possible, but difficult, and they're definitely not. If you're doing Burr, that's not the point of doing them. The point is to try to be in the deal as little as possible, and then in the end, if you can get that deal, then run. Because the idea is eventually you're going to get deals that don't work that way, and so maybe that 10 grand can be used in that type of deal. And so really, if you think about it like a business, you can see it that way, where instead of it being 10 grand, you can spend going on a family vacation. Now you're like, okay, well, when I do the next deal, maybe I'll have 5 grand extras. Well, I'm not. That's not hitting me too hard. I don't know if you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
that,
and I
Matt.
think and I think one thing that's been really helpful in me and Eric's situation is that we're good friends and we are constantly sharing our
Yeah.
experience with each other and have done our deals actually pretty much at the same time with like a 4 to 8 week offset with one another. So for every experience like that I'm having, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
That's like, so maybe like for this one, that's really good and positive throughout, I'm seeing Eric's deal, which is maybe, more average or maybe, more things
Typical.
not going perfectly,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
that's helping me, uh, you know, get a reality check of, how things more typically go. And on the flip side, I think our first deal, I think Eric's went a little better than
It's true.
mine, just in
It's true.
terms of renting it out, vacancy, and rent appreciation, right?
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
like I think Eric references before, just on the sample size, doing this together has given just doubled our sample size, and we've
Sure.
kind of evened each other out for every negative experience I've maybe had, or slightly, thing that didn't go perfectly.
Mm.
I see something on Eric's end of the deal that is going super well, and kind of vice versa. So that's been really beneficial for us.
Yeah, it's very unique, and I think it's great. In fact, normally I recommend that. Hey, if you have experience on it, reach out to them, talk to them, get their take. I mean, it shouldn't hurt at all to do that. So I think that's great that you guys take advantage of that. So let's transition to Eric. So Eric, your deal was again similar price point. Again, we thought your house would have been a little bit nicer, or just a hair, not much different. Your lot, you had a garage, attached garage, one car garage, and But your main level was larger, had a little bit larger, which always is going to help for the appraisal, or at least it always should. And so, typically speaking, you're like in Matt's case, we actually added a third bed above grade to give us that 3 beds above grade, but he did have a partially finished basement, but that partially finished square feet in the basement is at a kind of reduced rate for the appraisals. So the appraisers are going to look at above square feet and above bedrooms at a higher price point. And so with the Eric coming in this deal, 130 ARV was our projection, 1295 rent, but the appraisal. So we sent that over in this situation. Now, well, why don't you go ahead and tell us your experience of it, and then I can elaborate on it.
Yeah, so I received the appraisal back, decided to open the email, and it was appraised for 120. I think, was it 120?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Which was disheartening.
Was it 125?
I don't. Maybe it's 125. I'm not exact. Maybe it was 125 actually.
Okay.
I think it was 125
yeah. Okay.
first. I was trying to remember. Now, when I get to
you tried to put that memory out of your head. I got you.
Yeah. So we're like, hey, construction costs were higher. Not a big deal. That happens. But now with a lower appraisal, I'm in this deal a lot more than we expected. Your feedback, and I'm working with one of the lender that I work with, someone that you guys recommend, who has been actually fantastic. Jared has been awesome to work with.
Yeah.
He came back and he's like, "This isn't right.
Yep.
So let's contest this. Not even get into appraisal. Let's contest it because he's felt the appraiser wasn't taking into account a handful of data points. Yep. He's like, I think we'll be fine here. He spent. I think he invested a fair amount of time to help me, which I told him the time really appreciated.
Yep.
Came back about a week later, opened up the email, and it went up $2,500. So I think it was 127.5. That's why I think it was. You're right. It was initially 125. So he came back. He's like, all right, we have two options here: take the 127.5, wash our hands, call it a day, or just request a new appraisal, $650 or something. But how I'm thinking about $650 is if this thing goes up a couple $1,000, you make your money back immediately. Right, because if I'm taking out 75% of the money, so request a new appraiser. You guys, I think, were helping making sure that it was someone not on the blacklist and someone that we could trust. Came back probably at this point a week or two later, and then the appraisal came back at 145, which was great to see.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Again, it's interesting. So the negative to having friends in this scenario is you see Matt got 170 and yours comes in at 125. It's like, oh my goodness. And then even the 145, it's like, man, it's great. It's not as good as Matt's, but man,
I didn't feel that way. Honestly, I didn't feel that way because I don't really the only I felt that initially, and it wasn't why is his at 170 and mine is at 125. It was more like I felt pretty confident that when we get to the 130ish, 130, 135 number, I wasn't. Both of us got Matt's. We're like, oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, I'm not going to replicate that. I'm not expecting to replicate that. That's totally fine. But I just felt like I thought that you guys were conservative for a reason. And I felt that my appraisal would reflect it, which it ultimately did. It just didn't initially.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. So even for me in talking through this is the one thing. So first of all, let's jump in for the appraiser. So the appraiser, like I said, we do share these. In this specific case, we did share this with the group. Hey, has anybody internally, we asked a question. Hey, has anybody used this appraiser? Nobody had. They were from Illinois, out of state. So right away, we're like, ooh, okay. Now, really, when it comes to appraisers, if they're on our blacklist, we've learned that we've had decent success in saying, hey, we've had horrible experience with these people. We had one guy who did 2 appraisals that were, one of them was a $115,000 house in Gary, 4-bed, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet. And this was years ago. We were selling for 115. We had just flipped a house within about a quarter mile, similar square feet for the same price. And this one actually was a little bit larger and had an extra bed. So anyway, 4.2, and he came back in the 60s. And then he did another one for us. And so after that, we said, hey, moving forward, and we've had him come in and we said, this guy cannot go in our house. And I even told our buyers that we're willing to break the deal. We're willing to back out because we know what this guy is going to do. We've seen it. In this case with Eric. No, go ahead.
Can I jump in really quickly?
Please.
I don't mean to interrupt, but it's also probably worth noting here that the initial appraisal before my first one the initial appraiser for my
Uh-huh.
first one is someone who you actually said, I don't want to work with this appraiser. He or
Oh,
she was on our blacklist. I don't know if you recall
oh,
that.
I don't.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, so we hit already said we don't want to work with this person. So it was, I guess it was the second person who I don't recall
Wow.
the details, but it was from Illinois. So we already said no to the first one, and I think Jerry helped get that first up.
Okay. Well, okay. So that's important. Yeah, but in this case, this Illinois appraiser, they went through and now some of the issues right away, they were using comps from over a mile away. Right away. I mean, that's some of the data was wrong. They were using comps from like and Jerry called me right away and we went through the deal together and we were going to find comps. And this kind of helps me segue just a little bit into the appraiser your lenders. Um, I've seen a lot of investors, everything for them is about cost. It's about how much money is it going to cost me as far as the general cost for the appraisal and for the down for my down payment and then for my closing costs. It's all costs. And I this your example, Eric, is similar to other things I've shared with other investors in saying that if you get like Jerry, in this case, Jerry Padilla, is his name. He's the lender that we've recommended to many people. If you get a guy like that, you will make more money by having him. It's worth it. Just and this is the scenario that we give is in situations like this, he's a bulldog. He will go to bat for you and he will and again, he's the lender. I mean, frankly, and that's usually what happens. So in my experience, we've had poor appraisals. We challenge it. Oh, well, sorry. I mean, that's the bank talking. In this case, Jerry's doesn't do that. He, like you said, he took a phone call with you. I'm not sure his phone calls are detailed. They're long. He's asking tons of questions, and he's mad. He was not happy, and so in this case, he turned around and got you 20 grand more on this appraiser by helping you through the process. And so if you're out there and you're listening, and I get the cost savings, I get if you're trying to, but you will make money eventually by having a guy like this who's gonna. It's just worth it. I'm telling you, it's worth it. And so I was just so happy for you in this case, Eric, because I felt like it was unjust. First of all, it was just unjust with the first that first appraisal was just so bad, and then for it to come through, and naturally with what we do, we try to give as many warnings. We try to give as many saying, "Hey, this is what can happen," and we give both the good and the bad, and we want to give you the realistic things. But we certainly want the deals to go well and for you guys to produce. And so when we say, hey, there's a little bit of room in here. This has happened several times in these deals recently where our investors, we gave them a projected ARV and it came in higher. It really does, hopefully for you guys, justify what we're telling you when we're saying this, because ultimately we left money on the table in the deal. Like, frankly, we could have just said it's a higher ARV, but hopefully what are you listeners and Eric and Matt, you can get in this a little bit, but it justifies what we're trying to do for our clients. We try to make the deal sweeter for you, which means we make less money ultimately, because we know the deal needs to work. Anyway, that's great. So I really appreciate you guys working through there, but I can't say that enough. And if you get a poor appraisal, you can challenge it. You can ask, and it does take a little bit of work. There are occasions, and actually, Eric, if you remember, I told you that it's not horrible. The appraisal was not horrible. If they came in at 125, we projected 130. It's not horrible. And so I mean, I've seen significantly worse in situations like that. But I was ecstatic that we were able to get them up significantly, and I think Jerry definitely saw the details there. So that's really cool stuff. Now, transitioning then, if you guys want to give just general feedback on your ATK experience, that would just I would appreciate you guys give any kind of feedback, both good and bad, whatever you guys thought about the deals in your experience.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first.
Yeah.
Would definitely do one again. So positive experience. How I look at it is once I took the cash out refi, what did the end up dollars look like?
Mm-hmm.
The pro forma had a little under 7 grand. I ended up being a little 9,500 or so.
Okay.
And so I was all in about $9,500. And it goes back to what you were saying at the beginning, the outside of the call. It's,
Mm-hmm.
would you buy a house for $10,000, which is what I
Sure.
did
Sure.
in six
Yeah.
months. So I hand out a little over 100 grand, get it back, most of it back, and 6 months later, I have a house for $10,000. So I would do that pretty frequently. Interest
Sure.
rates, as long as a bunch of factors are at play there. So positive experience in terms of timing, communication, estimates, like there are puts and takes, but eventually a couple $1,000s here or there would definitely not have impacted my thought process. So I don't really have negative things to say about
Cool. Good.
it. The communication to me is probably the most important thing. And I appreciate that every week you were sending, as we went along for those 8 or so weeks, you were giving us updates. It wasn't so much about what is specifically going on in the house. We're redoing, we're painting, we're doing the roof, whatever it may be. It was more like, hey, we're on track. We're 3 weeks away. We're 2 weeks away. We're 1 week away. That's all I really care about, to make sure there's nothing slipping.
Cool. No, I appreciate that. That's good stuff. What about you, Matt?
Yeah. Overall, the ATK experience was exactly what I wanted. And kind of expected, and what I expected. To me, the most important thing, like priorities, like 1, 2, and 3, is that we're able to trust you and Olson, to get the job done. I mean, at the end of the day, especially for investors like myself and Eric, who don't have tons of experience,
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I mean, I wired 110 grand, right?
Yeah.
And I've never done this. I've never done a rehab. I don't know hardly anything. And so that was just a lot of my money going out into the ether, and I was trusting that I would get a house back with a tenant. And a huge part of our search was, when we were ultimately laying down you guys to work with, was, can we trust you? And it was really apparent just through all of your podcasts, marketing materials, the references that we spoke to, meeting you, being in the office there in Gary. It was just really obvious that we could just trust you. So now, to me, that was the biggest thing. I felt I trusted your numbers because you have tons of experience, hundreds and hundreds of houses in the area. You've been proven trustworthy. So I just kind of felt that, hey, anytime I got a little nervous feeling, I knew that you and the rest of the team would kind of have my back, and that no funny business was going to happen. And that was my experience. So it's great.
Yeah, and we feel that too. We want to we understand that 100 grand represents a lot of work, a major portion of what your investments, and it's a big responsibility, and we take it that way, and it hurts. I try to tell investors, because we have, again, you guys have had pretty good experience so far. We've had guys who had bad experience on a deal, especially if you're going to do volume. If you're going to do volume, you're going to have a bad experience on a deal. It's going to happen. A deal is not going to work the way you thought it was. And you just got to see it as one of the 20 that's going to happen. But it hurts. We hurt. We hate those experiences. It's a little bit more. It's realistic. It's real, but it hurts. And so but we do our best to try to help. And to try to get you guys where you need to go. We understand where you're headed. And first of all, I appreciate you guys coming on the call and helping us today, and learning more about the active turnkey experience. I appreciate your guys' spirit as well, in communication and working with you guys. I feel like you guys were always good. And in the end, when stuff happens, we had an investor who's actually got a little bit of a following, from Oregon, a police officer. His name's Michael Newton, actually, and he even talked about his experience buying from us is not so much when things go well. That you I think in most investments you'd love to see the thing go as planned. I think everybody likes that, but more or less, how does the company respond? How do people respond when things don't go well? And I think that's when you really get to see the true nature of core values. We do a lot of preaching of core values, and we talk a lot about this or that, and most companies do. But when something's pushing against those core values, do they stick to it? And so it's certainly something to think about. I appreciate you guys coming on. I'm just going to do a quick closing and we'll get out of here, but I'd really appreciate you guys getting on here, and it's been a great experience working with you guys over the years. Look forward to doing more, and of course, keep me posted when you're ready, guys. Let me know when you're ready for another one. And again, all you listeners out there, I just want to give you a few quick closing statements here. We do have a Gary Dealmaker event coming up here in Northwest Indiana at the office. So Tom has this big event, and it's growing, and the community it's huge. So the Gary Dealmaker event is on September 4th through 6th. It's here at our office. Tons of speakers. He mentioned last night in a meetup group that there's over $1 billion of assets being managed by the people who are going to be there. Just guys who are making stuff happen around the country, and they're going to be able to give you good ideas and helps on things like that. So September 4th through 6th, there's limited seating. We don't have much seating here at the office, 120 seats. So if you want to do that, you can go to goodsuccess.com. You can purchase your ticket, and we'd love to see you here. There's a lot of value, a lot of great speakers on myriad of different things at that event. Also, we do build rental portfolios for investors. And so if you're looking to jump in and you've never invested, you were like Matt and Eric, where you were just kind of dabbling, and you want to get going and get started, we can help you. You can reach out to me. You can reach me at Jared at Buy One Group. And my name, Jared, is Jarrod, just in case you were wondering. But Jared at buyonegroup.com. And you can also go to our website at onegroupnetwork.com. You can get on our buyers list. And we just sent out a new deal last night to our buyers. And so if you're wanting to see our list, you can do that. And also, if you're not familiar with our area, like Matt and Eric both, they came in and I hosted them personally. I took them to a great restaurant, and we had this amazing pizza that I do every time. And it's so important to me that we do the pizza because it's awesome. But we'll get some food, but we'll also go to different areas. You'll meet our team. We'll go to the properties. You'll get to touch it and look at it and see what's real. And then also you'll get to see the area and see what parts of area we work in and what we don't do and where we don't work. And I'll host you personally. We can coordinate all that, but I highly recommend wherever you invest that you do that. You go and visit the operation and see if these people are as they describe themselves on social media or on podcasts or what have you. But we can assist you with that. And so that's all we have today. Matt, Aaron, I appreciate you. Eric, I appreciate you guys coming on and joining us in the podcast. Active Turnkey, the best way to buy rentals. Have a great day, guys.
One Group Network makes no warranty, guarantee, or representation as to the accuracy or sufficiency of the information featured in this podcast. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only, and any reliance on the information provided in this podcast is done at your own risk. This podcast should not be considered professional advice. Unless specifically stated otherwise, One Group Network does not endorse, approve, recommend, or certify any information, product, process, service, or organization presented or mentioned in this podcast, and information from this podcast should not be referenced in any way to imply such approval or endorsement. Any third-party materials or content of any third-party site referenced in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions, standards, or policy of One Group Network. One Group Network assumes no responsibility or liability for the accuracy or completeness of the content contained in the third-party materials or on third-party sites referenced in this podcast, or the compliance with applicable laws of such materials and or links referenced herein.